going to do one of my infamous after-action reports. Well, really, this is more of a, thoughts after a play of a game, which I'll talk a little bit about what happened in the game, but mainly I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on this game. And the game I'm talking about here is Hill of Doves, the First Anglo-Boer War, 1880 to 1881, published by Legion Wargames and designed by Godfrey Bailey. I'll put a link to my unboxing and my setup and some of the other stuff I've done on this, so you get an idea of what this game is about. I go into a little bit more detail in the setup of kind of what some of the focus is of this game. But overall, let me give you a spoiler alert. Lost this game, lost this play, lost this by losing Pretoria on the strategic board, which, by the way, that's where you lose the game. The primary way to lose this game is on the strategic board. The only way to win this game is on the tactical board. What do I mean by that? Well, there's three boards. You have a strategic, you have an operational, and you have a tactical board. The way you win the game is controlling these 10 locations on this board. You start off with the camp, which is the location that you control. It's not secure yet. I'll talk about that in a second. But you need to control the other locations on this board. And that's how you win the game, is by controlling all 10 of these locations. How do you lose the game? Well, you lose the game like I did. You lose the game if you lose Pretoria. There are these cities on this strategic board that are under siege, and one of the steps that you go through in this game is you're going to roll to see if those cities fall. When they fall, they turn over to the Boers, and that's not good for you, because each one of these falls over affects this political track up here, and it becomes more likely that you're going to lose the game. If you lose Pretoria, you automatically lose the game, and that's what happened. I mean, I got pretty far in it, so I got some good gameplay, so I'm happy with that, and I've got a good feel for the game in that regard. This is my first full playthrough. I've done some stuff just going through the examples of play and setting up and pulling down, just try to understand some stuff. But I feel pretty good about I can learn more. I can do got a long way to go on strategy and figure out how to win the game, but I feel like I've got a much better handle on the game after this playthrough, plus some of the other ones I've done. Back to the strategic board, there's you can lose by losing Pretoria. There's a time track, strategic time track, easy for you to say, that at the end of it, you're just going to be moving down this track, and at the end, if you run out of time. And so there's Transvaal independence at the end of that track. So if you don't get everything done, if you don't control these 10 locations before that track gets to the end, you lose. Time's up, right? There's also a political track up here, which is affected by, losing cities here, but it's also affected by other things. Over time, there's going to be some modifiers that pop up to make it more likely that track is going to move, and the end of that track is Transvaal independence as well. So you can run out of time. You can have stuff happening on the boards that will affect the what I call the political track, which will make that pop to the end, which you lose, and then you can lose by Transvaal by just it going over. So that's how you lose. You lose on this board. This is how you win. You win on this board. So, how did I get to where I'm at? Well, the board's not set up the way the game ended. I've been kind of moving some stuff around and organizing pieces to try to collect my thoughts on the game. And so this is not necessarily how what you see on the board is not, other than this. This is not how the game exactly ended, because I've been kind of messing around with some of the counters. But basically, the game is a progression, right? You're going to start off on the strategic board. This is where your reinforcements come in. They're going to come in the port of Durban. You've got to move them up to Newcastle here, which is Fort Emile. And then once they get here, they're at Fort Emile, which is right here on this board. And here's your holding box for everything that is housed at Fort Emile. Then once you get to Fort Emile, you got to take them up this road here to get to Mount Prospect, which is on this board. Here's Mount Prospect, and this is the British camp. And this is basically your base of operations. This is where you're going to be doing all the tactics. You're going to be sending columns out, and there's a whole process of how you send columns out, whether you have leaders or whether you have headquarters. But you're going to be sending columns out. You're going to be issuing orders, which this really gets into the war game aspect. This is very much the tactical aspect, because it's going to make a difference whether you have a massed group or a line or an extended line. That's going to make an effect of how you do your attacks. But this is the meat of the game. This is where you're going to live. You're going to live on the tactical board, and you're going to win or lose. Actually, lose on that board, but you're going to win. The only way to win is really on this board right here. So you have this progression of going from this board to this board to this board. This board right here is very controlled a lot by, I got the events here because you have an event stage on this board. I think I had the cards somewhere else when I played this before, but this board is really about supplies and logistics. I mean, the weather is going to affect this board because you need to get their supply train up to Mount Prospect. That's not only your troops that are housed here have to go take this journey, but your supply train, which is represented here, needs to take this journey. And you dump off, once you get here, you dump off your supplies, and your supply track is very important to your operations, because this is the lifeblood of the game. Is if you don't have enough bullets, you can't, attack. If you don't have supplies, you can't feed your troops, if you don't have enough canisters, you can't use artillery or the like. So there's a lot of the supplies in the operational segment of this game really feeds nicely into your tactical operations. If you don't manage this well, or if you get stuff blocked because of rain or the elements, then you're really going to be hard pressed to press your attacks or your assaults on this board. So that's the flow of, you've got, this is kind of a strategic, loss factors, but also somewhat logistics of the port of entry. Then this is your logistics train, and managing, what you're taking from here and getting those reinforcements and mainly supplies up to your operations. And then most of the game, or the heart of the game, is right here on this board, which is more of a traditional war game. It's attack, it's orders, it's combined arms between cavalry and artillery and forces, and units getting hurt and hospitalized, and then trying to get them back to the battlefield and the like. So really a lot of stuff going on here. So how do you get to there? How does this play out? Well, one of there's two things I find very unique and novel about this game system. One is this strategic, operational, and tactical. I really like that. I've got a whole segment about levels of wargaming. I'll probably put a link to that too. I always find that interesting. You have strategic games, you have operational games, and you have tactical games. Well, this has all three, so you're getting three for the price of one. You're getting the feel of all three aspects of this conflict at those three different levels and those three different perspectives. So I really like that. The other really novel thing about this game is the card play. This is really not cards as play as what you're used to. It's not like a card-driven game, but this is your sequence. In solo games, tend to be very procedural based. You got to follow this procedure, this procedure, and baked into that is how the game's going to play against you, what the AI is. Well, this is all done with cards. So you just go through this deck of cards, and this tells you what to do. Here's strategic movement. Here's reinforcement. You just follow along these cards, do what it says, and then eventually when you get to this, it says, hey, go to the operational card 1. So now you go to this board, and you're going to go through this deck. Now, this deck here might pop over to here because there's operations and assaults that are going on. And also you might have some ambushes on this board as well. But you just go through the cards, and it tells you what you need to do and then move on to the next. And this might send you over to the tactical board to do stuff over there. And then once you're on the tactical board, well, this is how you do how you handle stuff on the tactical board, how your assigning your columns or organizing your columns, what orders you're giving them, where they're attacking, the locations, and the like. And as you can see, the decks get progressively bigger. This is the smallest deck as far as your orders or your procedures. This is kind of a medium weight, and this is up to 20 cards here, right? The 20 different steps that you have to go through for the tactical, potentially 20 steps. Not you don't necessarily go through every single step in the decks. It just depends on what's going on and what's taking place. So that right there is really like that aspect of the novel aspect of how this takes you through. I think first time I saw cards like this, like Stuka Joe was doing this. I think he might actually having some coming out for GMT for some of their games, but I know he made these kind of cards for his own aid in playing some games, and they've taken that concept and just applied it as a core mechanic in the game, or a core assist in the game. So really like that. So the different levels, the way that these cards assist in the play, really like that. That's a real novel, unique aspect of the game. Also, the subject matter itself. I don't know of any other games that really handle the First Anglo-Boer War, and I know of no other games that handle it in this aspect of a strategic, operational, and tactical level. So if you're interested in the subject matter, this is a must. You got to go get this. If you're interested in the 3 different levels and how the cards assist how you go through it, then this is, again, a no-brainer. So what's the downside of this game? Well, the downside of this game is really learning how to play it was a little bit of a downside. This board is easy. This board is really not that much more complex than that board. This is easy peasy. I figured this out real easy. This is a nice flow and makes sense. This is where my breakdown was in this board, just trying to figure out, okay, so there's control and there's secure. Well, how do you control stuff versus secure? And I finally figured out, controlling is just taking it over, knocking the Boers out, but secure it, you have to meet these certain criteria on this board. So that's going to affect your decisions. You might choose to attack and try to control certain things in a certain order to try to meet those conditions to, better take over this board. That didn't jump out at me. That wasn't as intuitive. Figuring out how to do that and why you'd want to do that, or why you want to do it in a certain way. The combat itself was not as intuitive. But I kind of figured it out. I mean, I might have made it more complex. This is an optional battle board that you can use. You don't have to use it. But I was just struggling trying to figure out how do I move stuff on this board? How do I use this board? What does this mean? And I probably spent more time trying to figure out how this interacts as opposed to saying, well, this is just an aid. You don't necessarily have to know exactly how to use this board to do the combat. But anyway, so it became more of a distraction to me to try to figure out the game than actually playing the game. And part of the reason why I guess some of my difficulty in playing the game or learning the game was I saw these cards. I said, oh, this is great. It's got rule segment. Great. I can just all I need to do is just go through the rules 1 or 2 times, and then I can just throw this on the board and start cranking through it. And that wasn't the case. You had this introductory book, which I thought, oh, that's just introductory. That's just telling you, introducing you to the components. Don't really need to refer to it again, and I'm fine. That's wrong. There's some stuff in this introductory book this is the only place where you can find it. Like, for example, the stuff on the board, main position, outpost, and farm, what those symbols mean. Stuff like, what is manhandle or animal drawn, and some of the distinctions there. So there's stuff in here that I didn't find in the rule book, and so or really explained in the examples of play. So I was like, okay, so I had to refer back to this. I think this book is fine. You see this in some Euro games and stuff, having like different books, different levels of like basic game and introductory game or introducing you to some things. I think this is fine, a nice addition, but everything in here should have been fully explained in the rule books, and I didn't find it that way. So that was a little bit of a disconnect of having to muddle through multiple books. The example of play is great. love examples of play. And this one, but the problem with this example play is it's not completely exhaustive. It doesn't cover all the different combat situations, which is fine. You can't cover everything. I mean, that always becomes the editing issue of when do you stop? You know, you can't cover every single alternative. That's where the rules, right? And so it was really good, but it didn't cover everything. But there was some stuff in here that I didn't really see fleshed out in the rule book. So this was my primary way of learning some things, and it wasn't as fully laid out in the rule book. So I kind of had to go through this and understand some of the stuff and refer to this as my learning tool. And this should be an aid, not a requirement, right? And so it needs to stay in there. I'm not saying get rid of either of these two books. Love them, but everything in these books needs to be fully fleshed out in this book. And maybe it is, and maybe I missed it, and maybe it's because the rule book is laid out and it's not necessarily chapter and verse. It's more narrative and it kind of waxes into some commentary more than it says this is the rule, you know. This is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is the exception to that, you know. I didn't read this way, and I missed some stuff. Again, I'll take responsibility of me, the desire to get into this quick and not, you know, exhaustively going over this with a fine-tooth comb and relying maybe that I can always refer to these cards with their rule references and get right back to this. But I struggled because I was muddling through all three of these books, and I feel like any game, especially a war game, everything needs to be in here, laid out exactly what you need to know, and this should all be supplementary. And I don't know, I didn't find that. I found I was living in between these three books and the cards. I was living in that world of somewhere there's an answer between those four resources, or the board, for example. Anyway, that was my struggle. So that's my bad. Again, it doesn't make this game unplayable. It just might, and your mileage may vary. You might pick this up and like, this is a piece of cake. Understand all of it, everything. I don't know what the heck you're talking about with the rules. I loved it. It was perfect. It wasn't for me, and that's just my opinion. Again, your mileage may vary, but that's my overall thoughts of this game. I like to see more development in this space. I'm going to play this some more, and the more I play it, I'm gonna like, okay, I got it, and that's not an issue anymore. But I want to see more in this space. I like this. I like this adaptation into the solo space of using these cards. I like that. I like how you. And again, when you do an ambush, there's an ambush deck, so you just follow that procedure for ambushes. I like the different levels of play. I find that very appealing to my sensibilities and how I liked playing solo games. You know, there's really nothing like this on the board. I mean, the only thing I can kind of equate this to is maybe the Enemy Coast Ahead series, which is very procedural, and there's a lot of stuff going on to get to the action. This one, you get to the action a little bit quicker. You don't spend as much time on these boards. You're spending a lot of time here trying to do what you need to do. So, like it. If anything I've said appeals to you, you should probably be taking a look at this from Legion Games. They're kind of in a unique space, and some of the stuff that they cover and the kind of games they put out there. Nothing's cookie cutter with them. It's all a little different topics and a little different mechanics. So definitely something to check out. Also, in that regard, I need to note, thank you, Legions. They sent me this copy. So thank you for sending this to me. But as you show that I'm not biased, I do think that they could have done a better job on this, but everything else I like. Maybe you'll like it too. Anyway, thanks for spending some time with me today. I know it's precious, so anytime you spend with me is greatly appreciated. I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of the day. Take a look at this. Might be worth your time. Thanks for watching.